Well, it is time for Weather Word Wednesday, and today's words are 2025 tornadoes.
Meteorologist Jacob Morse explains.
In this Morse Code of Weather Tornado History series, I've been looking back at our state's most violent tornadoes, but this year is probably going to go in the record books for having a significant amount of tornadoes. The preliminary total for this year is close to 40, which is the most since all the way back in 2011. So in this week's Morse Code of Weather segment, I wanted to look back at our tornadoes, especially the significant ones from this year, and talk about the weather setup that led to these tornado outbreaks, specifically on June 20th when there were 19 tornadoes across southern North Dakota. Some of these were embedded along that derecho, or very strong wind event from thunderstorms. Others were formed with supercells. Those were individual thunderstorms that formed ahead of that derecho that swept through southern North Dakota. And of course, the strongest tornado was in Enderlin. That was rated EF3, but there were a couple other EF2 tornadoes in southern North Dakota that Friday in June. And this was the weather setup with a warm front. That was the boundary that allowed for thunderstorms to form along. We had a lot of humidity. Temperatures were near 90 degrees, and there was a lot of wind shear with low-level winds coming out of the southeast, upper-level winds out of the southwest. That turning of wind with height creates the spin in the atmosphere for tornadoes to form. Then a week later, on June 27th, there were 9 tornadoes across south-central North Dakota, EF2 rating in Temvik, northwest of Linton, and then those 2 tornadoes to the north of Bismarck, one of which was rated EF1. And similarly, there was a boundary nearby, an occluded front with a couple areas of low pressure, and that wind shear with low-level winds out of the southeast, upper-level winds out of the west-southwest, that creates that spin in the atmosphere for tornadoes to form. And we had a lot of humidity to fuel the thunderstorms that popped up on that Friday in late June. So we'll talk more about these tornado outbreaks from earlier this year later today on First News at 4.